Alright, hey guys, this is your friendly corner floating head Mike, and in this video I'm going to tell you about the movements that you can expect to see at your first tactical games. A quick agenda for you. I'm going to walk you through some movements. I'm going to explain them. We're going to go over a couple example battles or what the workouts or events actually look like. And then I'm going to give you just a couple quick lessons learned from the 2 tactical games I've completed. Oh, and tomorrow needs you. Alright, first up is our Strongman Movements, and of course the farmer carry. If you haven't done a farmer carry before, it's very grip intensive. Basically you're just carrying 2 suitcase style handles, one in each arm. The weights I've seen are 165 per arm or 135 per arm. If you're doing 135, you'll have to move it further. 165, you probably won't have to move it as far, but you know, it's definitely a unique kind of stimulus. I would definitely recommend training it and working grip to prepare yourself for this. Suitcase carry, it's the exact same thing as farmer's carry except just one side. The one event I did, it was a 165-pound suitcase carry, which was extremely challenging. That's a lot of weight to be carrying on one side of your body. And then it blows up one hand, so when you go to grip the pistol, it feels pretty weird. So something else that's worth training. And the Husafell Stone. Yeah, it's a kind of a funny word, but I'm pretty sure it comes out of Iceland, so that explains that. But the Husafell Stone, it's shaped like the object you see in the picture here. What I'm doing here is a stress carry of the Husafell Stone, which means you're carrying it between your shoulders and your hips. Most of the time I think it's allowed. You can throw it over your shoulder, which kind of allows you to move faster that way, and it's easier to breathe, but it's also a lot of work to get it all the way up to your shoulder, so there's some trade-offs, but definitely another grip intensive movement. And then of course there's wheelbarrows. They're pretty cool. I think they're those like rogue ones with the little pole in the middle of it for stacking up plates. Another grip blaster, of course, and it was pretty heavy. I don't remember the exact weight for this. It was definitely over 100 pounds, and I remember it being very challenging to go unbroken on that. But those are some strongman movements that you can expect. And I'm going to be going over what I have experienced in the elite class so far, and you know, just keep in mind as the sport develops, I'm sure they'll continue to kind of push the envelope in the weights. Alright, and sandbags. As you can see, I've got my little sad face up in the right hand corner because I had not done a lot of sandbag work leading into this, and sandbags are hard. If you are used to throwing a barbell around, the equivalent weight in sandbag always feels much heavier. It's always a lot more taxing to pick up and carry and throw over your shoulder. But these are some weights that we commonly see in the elites at 100 pounds, 150 pounds, and of course 200 pounds. And I have a strong sneaking suspicion that we will see a 250-pound bag at the national championship, and may become a staple in the 22 season, but we'll see. Some things that you can expect to do with the sandbag. Stress carry, like I said, is between your shoulders and your hips, as you see me do it in the picture here, over the yoke. So picking the sandbag up off the ground and throwing it over a yoke. Usually, for me, I'm 5'11", it's usually about chest height. Deadlift, stress carry, and burpee. This is something we just came across at the Phoenix event at the Ben Avery range. And basically pick up sandbag or deadlift it, stress carry it a few feet, drop it, and do a burpee on it, and pick it up and repeat. But I'll go over that in more detail later, actually, when I cover an example of an event. And this lateral toss, I saw it back in March of this year. I haven't seen it since, but It's kind of a fun one, and it's usually a lighter bag, but it's just like it sounds. You basically pick up a bag, you throw it laterally downrange, run over to the bag, pick it back up, and throw it again laterally downrange until you get down to the firing line and do your firing sequence. And you can't progress the bag while carrying it in any way. So that was pretty fun too. But yeah, sandbags, really, really challenging. And for people who have not trained with sandbags much, it will definitely wake you up. And then axle bars. So the first time I used an axle bar was at a Tactical Games. I was pretty nervous about the width of the axle bar and how slick it was, but I highly recommend, if you're used to working with a barbell or hook gripping, definitely stop hook gripping and build up that grip of the barbell in your workouts. But most of the time with the axle bar, we're doing carries of various kinds. Usually the Zercher, which is cradling the bar in sort of the crux of your elbow in front of you. Front rack carry, which is carrying the bar kind of on your shoulders and your collarbone, like you see in the picture here. And then overhead carries, which is locked out over your head and moving. Usually if you see this in a workout, it'll be in some sort of a progression. So one round you'll Zercher carry, the next round you'll front rack, the next round you'll go overhead, and you're usually progressing upwards or downwards in some fashion. And the weights that we've commonly used in Elite was, I think, 165. But with the Tactical Games, they're always looking for different ways to challenge you. So I could see that weight going up or down based on the programming. But that's what I've experienced so far. And those are axle bars. And sleds. The sleds, it's always fun because there's always lots of dirt and rocks and plenty of things for the sleds to drag and get stuck on. And but you can expect to see just a regular sled pull, facing away from the sled and pulling it forward. A reverse sled pull, facing the sled and backpedaling, pulling on the rope. And a quick note on these that took me a couple events to learn, and is an advantage for tall folk. It's really good to choke up on the rope a little bit, or at least as much as you can, because the higher you can get, or the more upward tension you can get on the front of the sled, the slicker it's going to be, the easier it's going to be, the less friction there's going to be to pull it. Whereas the more horizontal you pull that rope, the more friction there's going to be on the sled. So whenever you can choke up on the rope, I always recommend doing that. And then, of course, seated pulls. That's basically exactly what it sounds like. You're going to be sitting down facing the sled, extended out at the end of a rope, and you're just going to end over end. You're going to pull that sled towards you while you're sitting. This is a pretty fun one to watch sometimes because often folks will be so focused on pulling the sled, they don't realize that they are becoming a pile of rope as the sled gets closer to them. So a smart thing to do is just pull a couple feet and then throw that lead off to your side, and then continue to pull the rope in and just kind of let it pile up next to you. That way you can get up and you don't have to untangle yourself and lose time. Another lesson I learned at the Phoenix event with this is gloves. The rope that was attached to the sled was pretty skinny, and so I would grip harder and harder and harder to pull on it. And of course, the more I did that, the more it ripped up my hand because it was so skinny. It was hard to get a grip on. So next time, I'm definitely going to bring gloves if that comes up. But the other thing to consider in that case, then you're going to be shooting with gloves on, and you need to make sure that you practice shooting with gloves on so you still get the same trigger manipulation and you get the same grip feel on the gun. And the weights, they vary, but at the last event I did, I think we were pulling 3 45-pound plates on the sled. It was something like that, but you can expect it to be challenging. And then long movements. There's the kit run, which is exactly what it sounds like. Your kit refers to your pistol, your rifle, your belt, and your plate carrier. And usually you shoot before you run, so you might not be taking your magazines with you, but generally, like, that's how it works. So, I've heard like horror stories about people getting demolished, but the events I've attended, it's really only been like about a 3-mile run. I'm sure that will escalate for nationals, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. But the conditions matter. If it is hot and you're running in that kit, it will suck. But for most people, your rifle, your pistol, your plate carrier, your belt, I'm guessing you're around 30 pounds for the kit run. And then there's the ruck. And for you non-military folk, a ruck simply refers to you moving from point A to point B with something heavy on your back, in a hasty fashion. That could be speed walking, power walking, for some supermen out there, maybe even actually running with the weight on their back. I haven't done a ruck yet at a Tactical Games event, but there will be a ruck at the National Championship on November 19th. And we've been told, or it was released by Jake Mazzell, that it should be no more than 7 miles. That's for the elites. And the weight is yet undisclosed, so we'll see. But my guess is it will be between 30 and 60 pounds. And I am also guessing that it will be an increasing weight, so maybe it'll be like 2 or 3 laps or something along those lines, adding weight each time. But we'll see. Yeah, but that's generally what you can expect for long movements. All right, and yokes. The yoke is this H-frame implement you see in the photo here. And we do a few different things with these yokes. Of course, there's sandbag over the yoke. And sandbags I mentioned earlier, you'll be picking them up off the ground and throwing them over the bar. The heights vary depending on the division, but for elite, the events I've done, it's usually been about chest height on me. Burpee over the yoke, you're going to get down in the dirt, do a burpee, and then you're going to get your body over that bar. And then the yoke get over, which is a piece of the burpee over the yoke. So basically you're just jumping over the yoke, you're getting over it. And there are some rules about around how you can get over the yoke. But if you go to an event, just make sure that you listen to your battle boss, make sure that you listen to the briefs, because you'll get briefed on all that. You make sure you're following the rules. But those are the essentials of what you can expect to do with the yoke. All right, so that wasn't, I'm sure, there was a few pieces that I missed or other movements that have been in games past, that I didn't come across. But if you're trying your first Tactical Games, I mean, that's a good chunk of what you can expect. If you practice those things, you'll definitely be well prepared. So now I'm going to move into an example of a battle. And this is a heavy battle, or what I would consider a battle geared towards heavy weight. Your loadout is going to be 5 magazines of 9 rounds each for the rifle, 5 magazines of 7 rounds each for the pistol, and that kind of nomenclature you can expect to see in the battle briefs as well. So keep that in mind. Implements, this workout was with sandbags. And the progression was as follows. Basically, you're going to move each sandbag to the firing line while stopping to perform 4 hand release burpees along the way. And then you're going to perform the firing sequence once you get to the end. And then once all the sandbags are at the firing line, you will move each sandbag back to the starting line while stopping to perform 4 hand release burpees, etc., doing another firing sequence in between each round. So, it's hard to visualize that, just in your head reading it. I always have to read these things like 10 times, the day before, the day of, in order for it to really stick in my brain. And during the event, your heart rate's up. It's hard to remember stuff, and it's easy to get confused. So I always, I honestly, I read it like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, so that I can kind of just ingrain it in my mind so I don't forget too much. But also your judges will sometimes help you, which is nice. And if you have questions about anything, always ask your battle boss. But I learn visually, and I know other folks do too. So you can't go wrong with a little diagram. So here's my high-speed diagram of the event that I just described. At the top here, you've got your rifle target, your pistol target. Here's your line of shooters boxes, and our 5 lanes. Here are your 4 positions where you'll be stopping to do your hand release burpees on the sandbag. Back here is your starting line with your 3 sandbags at 100, 150, 200 pounds. So this is my high-speed diagram for you. But so how it would flow is at the call it go, the athlete would run down to the firing line. You'd ground your rifle facing uprange. Then you will run back, pick up your 100-pound sandbag, and carry it to the first position where you do 1 hand release burpee. Pick the sandbag back up, go to the second position, do a hand release burpee. Pick the sandbag back up, third position, do a hand release burpee. So on and so forth until you get to the end where you would drop the sandbag, step into the shooter's box, load, and do your firing sequence 1. Once that's complete, you ground your rifle again. You will run back and repeat that with the 150-pound bag all the way down, drop, fire. Repeat that with the 200-pound bag all the way down, drop, fire. And now that let's give you a little visual what that will look like. So there you go. There's your 100-pound bag down. There's your 150-pound bag down. All right, now 200, and all 3 are now down here at the firing line. So what happens next? Well, you're going to repeat and bring them all back, starting with the 200. Your hand release burpees, drop, come back, fire. Next, the 150, hand release burpees down, drop, come back, fire. Until you get to the final, which is your 100-pound bag, and all bags are back at the starting line, and you will sprint across the finish, and your time will stop. So yeah, that is, generally how you can expect an event to flow. You're going to be doing some kind of work, then you're going to be firing. There'll be some kind of work. You're going to be firing until all the work and all the firing is done. And of course, there's lots of variations on this. You might be leaving the bay if you're going out on a long sled drag, and coming back around. There's been 600-meter runs or sprints where you sprint out of the bay and you sprint back. There's lots of variations on this, but that gives you a visual representation of where you'll be moving and shooting and what you would be doing in a heavy event. So that was an example of a heavy battle, but there are other sort of battle categories or types. There's battles that are focused on work capacity, so you can expect maybe a little bit longer or more work at a lighter weight and maybe a higher speed. But they'll be structured pretty similarly. And then there are long movements, which I covered a little bit ago. You usually run kit runs or rucks, and on those you usually shoot first, and it's more of kind of a practical shooting setup where you're moving and shooting, and those are a lot of fun, and then you go out on a run or something like that. But I won't go through examples of those because you're probably already bored to death of diagrams, but those are some other categories that you can expect. All right, so we've covered a list of the main movements. We've given you an example of a battle, covered the battle types, and an example battle flow. A couple quick parting notes from 2 important things I feel like I've learned, the noob that I am. When you are at a tactical games event, don't miss fast. And all I mean by that is you can be as fast as you want at the firing line, but if you're missing, it doesn't matter. Especially if you're new, or especially if you're a new shooter, focus on your fundamentals. When your heart rate is jacked up and you're everything's on fire and burning, really slow everything down. Try to feel the trigger, clear your mind, focus on the target. Actually, when you're losing those fine motor skills is when you need to focus on those fine motor skills. So don't miss fast. Slow down and try to shoot well. And the second thing, which was a big surprise for me, because I felt like I was a pretty fit guy going into it, but grip. I was hooking the barbell at my gym. My grip was not prepared for all the grip challenges that the tactical games will throw at you. So if you're new to this, definitely build up that grip. But that's it. So we've done an introduction to the tactical games overall. I've covered movements you can expect today, but I will continue to march on with these topics as long as it seems to be helping folks who are interested in the tactical games or new. But I really appreciate y'all's time. For those of you who reached out to me last week with questions, that was a lot of fun, so thanks for connecting, and I hope that was helpful. And for those of you who are doing your first event next week in Burn It or competing, can't wait to see you guys, and make sure to say hello, and I hope this is helpful for you all. Sorry. Thanks, guys. I will catch you next time.